Hi golfers, Nick here from GOLFTEC Singapore. It's Friday, so welcome to another lesson on golf tips. Over the coming weeks, I'm going to be talking to you about some Swing Tru Motion studies that GOLFTEC have performed. So the first study we're going to talk about this week is the hip sway. And if you're familiar with my channel over the last couple of years, you would have heard me talk about the hip sway and the weight. So today we're going to give it some context. You can see I've got the straps on, so this is the 3D measuring. But first of all, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about some numbers and the study first of all, and then how that study works as well. So first of all, the hip sway. 30 plus handicappers, you can see the graph on the screen here. Their average hip sway is 2.3 inches towards the target. The tour players, 3.9 inches towards, and you can see a big correlation there between the sort of high handicappers and the better players in their hip sway. So this study's been measured over a period of time. That we've had thousands and thousands of golfers come through here, all different handicaps. We've measured over 150 tour players as well. So when we're coaching, when you see some of my videos, there'll be some colour sort of numbers coming up, and the green numbers are sort of where the sort of average tour player is. So I'm going to talk to you first of all about how we get those numbers and how these sensors actually work. So first of all, I'm just going to draw my golfer just to give you some sort of idea on how this works. So there's the ball position, there's the swing centre. As I do in all my lessons, I sort of use my grid, so I'm just going to draw my grid from the swing centre. So the golfer is actually hitting over here, so there's my green, there's my ball position, as you know the draw's built in, there's my target line. So there's my golfer. We're going to talk about the hip sway sensor, which is located on the back of the pelvis, which is there. I'm going to talk to you about how that works and how that moves, so in the context of the swing. So this is going to be reference to sort of the centre, or where the sensor is going to be on the back of my hip. So I'm just going to place that on the board here, and I'm going to call this P1. So this is P1 here, this is position 1, the setup of the golf swing. As we swing back, when you get the shaft to parallel, this is P2, we're going to see how that sensor moves on the back of the hip. So as I start to turn my hips, that sensor is actually moving this way, so it becomes about there at P2. So you can see if my target's over here, that sensor's actually moved this way, sort of a couple of inches. So as that sensor continues, you'll see by the time I get somewhere near 45 degree of hip turn, that sensor's moved now even further. So for the tour players, this would be P4 at the top of the backswing, which is when the club's the furthest or the person's turned the most with the shoulders. So this is P4. You'll see how that sensor's now moved sort of roughly 3.9 inches towards the target for the tour players. Now, you can see the high handicappers 30 plus, they move that sensor a little bit towards, and that's just because, like I said, that where it's located on the back of the pelvis, as you turn it will move closer towards the target. So we're not talking about actually moving the hips this way as such, it's just the way the turns work and where the sensor's positioned. That's how the sensor moves actually a little bit towards the target. So now I'm going to put this Swing Tru Motion study into action. I'm going to try and swing the first shot like a tour player does, move that sensor sort of around 4 inches towards the target. Then the second one, I'm going to try and swing it like a 30 plus handicapper, where that sensor only moves a couple of inches towards. So we're going to take a look at the two different swings. We've got some club data here from the GC Quad. Also we're going to look at 3D movements as well, see how it affects the club data and the ball flight. So the first one will be sort of my normal swing. Okay, as you can see on the screen there, nice little draw, sort of roughly what my normal golf swing would look like, pitching around 165. Let's take a look at the club data. 122 mile an hour ball speed, club head speed 94. Swing path was 5 degrees from in to out, and I hit down about 3 degrees, and you can see there the ball flight was straight and with a slight curve to the left. So push draw, pretty good shot. Let's see what happens when I move that sensor and try and swing like a 30 handicapper. So for this next swing, I'm going to try and swing this like a 30 handicapper. So for me, it's going to feel like that sensor's moving away, even though when you turn, it should move, like we looked at the diagram there, it should actually move a bit towards, but it can feel like it's moving away. See what happens to the ball flight and the club data. Okay, struck it pretty good. You can see the ball flight this time, a bit more of a pull fade. Distance, probably 7 or 8 yards shorter in distance. So club data, this is interesting. So club head speed dropped 2 miles an hour to 92. Now the path actually moved slightly out to in. The attack angle was similar, but you could see definitely ball flight moved from left to right, dropped in distance. So let's sit down now and take a look at the 3D movements, see why the path would have changed. Saw me hit those 2 shots there on the quad. I've got some club data which we'll look at. I've also got the motion measurement numbers. So you can see on the screen here, I've pulled up hip sway, hip turn, shoulder sway and shoulder turn. These are going to be quite relevant as we look at the movements in the swing. You can also see I've got some lines on there, so I've boxed the head in and I've put a line on the right leg as well. So I'm going to take it back to position 2, we talked about that where the shaft's parallel, just to notice a couple of differences with the 2 swings. So with the 30 handicapper swing, you can see how my hip has moved outside of that line, my head has started to move outside of the box as well. You can see these colours have changed as well. A green number would be where a tour player would be, a blue number would be past the tour player, a yellow wouldn't be quite enough, and a red would be a long way away. So you can see, looking at these numbers here, the red numbers are shoulder turn and shoulder sway, so you can see the head moving out. I've not turned my shoulders enough. The yellow numbers with the 30 handicapper is the hip sway is actually moved an inch towards, even though I've moved outside of that line. It's just the way that position is on the back of the pelvis. We talked about that earlier on, how that should actually move more towards. I've actually moved it a little bit too much more towards on my pro swing, but blue number is better than yellow or red. So let's take it further back into the swing. Let's take it to position 4 we talked about earlier on the video. So position 4 would be the position where I've reached the top of my backswing, or I've had the most rotation of the shoulders. Now, what you'll notice first of all is the sway numbers. So I've got a red number with my 30 handicapper swing, which is 0.6 towards. I've got a blue number with my pro swing, which is 5.6 towards. Tour player average 3.9. So you can see how pretty close to that, I've actually gone past that range. Now my hip turn is very good with my tour player swing, 45, that's bang on average tour player. Now my hip turn with my 30 handicapper swing is only 36, so not only have I not moved the sensor enough towards, I've struggled to turn as well. Now the shoulder sway numbers are interesting as well. I pulled those up, which we might go into more detail in another video, but just notice how I've got a green number when my head stayed in the box. I've actually got a yellow number where the head has moved outside of the box on the right there, and also the shoulder turn is less, about 10 degrees less with the picture on the right. So interesting sort of stats there to look at how the body moves, how the sensors move. You can see the leg has moved way outside with that 30 plus handicapper swing, even though the hip sway number's very close to 0. You can see the way I've turned is not quite right, and I haven't got the rotation. Let's see what happens. I move that into impact. So position 7 is impact as I hit the ball. So can't get the perfect frame here, but just look at this, roughly similar just after impact. Again, look at the numbers we're getting. So with the tour player swing, the hip sway 0.6 towards, and with the high handicapper swing 3.9 inches away from the target. So I've actually moved the sensor away, and as a result it's gone red. So the hip sensor has gone red with the 30 handicapper, where it's green with the tour player. Also notice the shoulder sway as well, so the head's in the box. I moved it an inch towards with the tour player, and I moved it 3.4 inches away with the high handicapper. So I've just switched the camera view to down the line, and I've just pulled up just the hip sway number. Just notice the shaft angle at this point, how the one on the right, the high handicapper swing, is a long way from my forearm. Ideally at this point you'd want that shaft roughly on the right hand forearm. So it's pretty close with the one on the left. So you can see the hip sway is 1.4 inches towards, where we've got 3.1 inches away on the right. Now just watch these next couple of frames. So if I stop the camera there, again you can see the hip sway more towards on the left, but just notice where the club head is. So the club's actually outside of the ball on the right, and now it's just inside of the ball on the left. So the way you move your body, the more you keep your hip sway number away, the swing will start to move across the ball. The more you move it towards, the more you'll deliver that club from the inside, and that's quite a good sort of visual there to see. And we just wind it onto the impact just to see those colour codes at impact. So we saw this from the front view as well. So the hip sway actually moving away 3.9 on the right, which is the high handicapper swing, and 0.6 towards with the tour player swing. So looking at the club data, I mentioned it on the video earlier on, Now with the tour player swing, where I moved my sensor towards the target and kept it there, my swing path moved from the inside 5.3 degrees. Now when I moved that sensor away and kept it there as I went through, the actual swing path moved from out to in 2.2. So the hip sway number not only has a bearing on speed, because we dropped on speed, and rotation, it also has a big bearing on the path of the club. My angle of attack was a little bit more shallow as well, with the sensor moving away, and you can see that on the video my head was leaning back, and that will lead to bad connection as well. The hip being back, that's the weight, and the head being back, you'll tend to hit more up on the ball with the irons, and also that would lead to sort of low point being behind, loss of power, loss of consistency, and definitely a difficulty of controlling where the low point of the swing is, which is probably the most important fundamental of playing good golf. So clearly you can see the difference in how you move the sensors, how that can affect the path of the swing, the rotation of the swing, the strike. Although I hit 2 good shots there off a nice mat, if I was hitting those shots off the grass, I probably would have noticed a bit more difference in the strike. And if you continually move the swing with the sensor moving away, you're going to struggle to create power, and also you're going to struggle to strike the ball correctly. So the sensor has to move towards. This is one of the best things about having lessons at GOLFTEC. You can see where these sensors move. You've got club data, you've got video. One of the best places to learn how to play golf like the tour players do. So golfers, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you've got any comments, post them in the box below. If you don't already, please follow us on our other social media platforms. So the best thing to do is try and find a local GOLFTEC coach near you and to work on your game. Thanks for watching, golfers, and we'll see you again soon. Looking at the club data, I mentioned it on the video earlier, so 5.3 inches